Let me be honest with you. The economy of most African nations at the moment is pathetic. That's just the truth. So, as a result of that, more and more Africans are leaving the continent to Europe, America, even Asia. But when you are before you travel, there are some things you have to think about. All that glitters is not gold. There's something happening to Nigerians or even Africans traveling to Europe. I have not done any research, but I can say categorically that at least 70% of people that leave the continent Africa and migrate to other continents migrate for economic reasons. Yes, they migrate because they want to make a better life for themselves financially. And this is a good thing to do, especially if you're a parent, you have children, or you have dependents, and you want opportunities. It's easier, I think, to get opportunities outside the continent of Africa. But there are some issues that people don't really pay attention to. For example, when you've lived in a country, you understand their culture, you understand their way of life. And by the time you go to another country, even another continent, you are now forced to do some things or to tolerate some things that you would not tolerate. You are now exposed to all kinds of things. Yes, while I'm talking in general, I'll share a story of a woman. Mind you, this woman is a white woman, so it's not like she's African. She found herself and her son, they found themselves in a situation that she was very worried about. In Africa, in this part of the world, you find out that as a parent, there's a level of authority you have over your child. It's like you have some authority over your child. You can tell your child where to go, who to talk to, and what to do. But in those societies in Europe and America, the state has more authority over your child. They can sometimes even take your children away from you, and sometimes for very frivolous reasons. So it's like you are helpless in some situations. And also, you have some Nigerian parents or African parents that are so eager to send their children to Europe or America to study at very young ages. Sometimes these children are like 17 or 18. At that age, children need some parental guardians, yes. So when you as a parent, you send your children abroad, especially when they are young, when they've not really developed their character, when they still need some kind of mentoring, when they still need your presence, you send them abroad to school. There are things that they may be exposed to that they may not be able to tolerate. Now, in Africa in general, we know that when it comes to relationships, the standard relationship is a man and a woman. Yes, when it comes to those kind of relationships, a man and a woman. Marriage is seen in the African context to a large extent as a marriage between man and woman. But when you leave the continent, there are some places that it's approved for a woman to marry a woman, and it's approved for a man to marry a man. Yes, we have people like that in this continent, in Africa. There are people that choose to have sexual relationships with people of the same gender in Africa, but it's not mainstream and it's not widely accepted, and it's not something you are forced to tolerate or you are forced to accept. But when you cross the Atlantic Ocean and you go to those places, there are things that will happen. And now, why, if you're an adult to a large extent, I think if you're an adult, you don't have moral, you don't have a belief in a supreme being, you don't believe in God particularly, I believe you are free. At least, you are free to do what you want. Yes, we've been given the gift of free will. God doesn't force you to do anything to serve him. It's something you have to choose. It's something you have to actively agree. It's not forced upon you. So as an adult, if you decide that you're a woman, you want to have some relationships with a fellow woman, or a man, you want to have a relationship with a fellow man, is up to you. Now, let me say it's something that happened to this particular woman. Mind you, this woman is a white woman, so it's not like she's black, or she's a white woman, but she got into a situation that got her worried. She took her son for a routine test. She took her son for a routine test in a hospital. And when she got there, she found out that she was at the waiting room. And normally, when it's time for her son to go in, or her child to go in for testing, she would go with him. But this time, she noticed that the nurse told told the child to come in alone. I think this child is about maybe 10 to 13. I don't think the child is even up to 13, but just a child, she followed the child for a medical examination. I think he's an athlete in school. He wanted to just get some medical examinations done and all that. So they called the child, and the child entered the place. And while the child entered the room that they were giving tests, they were doing some medical tests on him. She noticed that it was taking some time, and when she picked, she just gave a peep. She went there and she just to look to see what was doing. She saw her son feeling so many like forms, and she was wondering what was happening. But so she just waited, and by the time they finished the test, the child came, and the child was like, "Mom, something weird was happening there." The child was like, "Something weird was happening there," and she was like, "What's it, son?" And the son told her that they were asking him some funny questions in a form. First of all, they asked him questions like, "Are you gay? Are you gay?" They asked him, "Do you feel like a boy or do you feel like a girl?" They were asking him some questions that were highly irrelevant. They were asking him some questions that they had no right to ask him, for crying out loud. First of all, why will you be telling somebody that is a child whether the person is gay? Those kind of how will you even know if you are gay as a child? As a child, you shouldn't even, it's not even legal, it's not even right for a child to be involved in adult relationships, adult physical relationship. It's meant for adults in the first place. So how will a child even know if they are gay? That's one question I want to ask. What kind of questions are those? I feel that sometimes you have this agenda, especially in the West. They try to encourage your children. They try to encourage young people to accept a certain lifestyle. It's not something they want, but they try to impose those kind of lifestyles. Because even as a human being, maybe as a child, sometimes you're a boy, you just feel as if, oh, maybe you just feel awkward. That's part of being an adolescent. There's a stage of your life as a boy and as a girl that your body feels awkward, that you are getting to discover yourself, that you are getting to discover your body, even your emotions. You are getting to understand your emotions. So at that time, you can have a lot of confusion. So because even as a younger person, as a child, there was a time that I was like a tomboy. I would wear trousers, I would be bouncing and all that. But just imagine if I grew up in those kind of societies, they would have made some suggestions to me, and maybe today I would not be a woman. I'd be at least on the outward. On looking at me, I would have done some surgery and all those transition surgery or whatever, and I'll be a male. So sometimes in those societies, they kind of impose or try to force children or force people to accept to have a lifestyle, and it's so worrisome that the parents are made to be powerless. For example, in a state like California in America, a child can decide a child that is a boy can just decide to change and become a girl, and the school will support the child, and the parents will not have any idea. It's a law. A child can decide to change their gender without the approval of their parents in California, in America. Yes, that is something happening. So you are a parent, your child can be a boy and now decide, I don't want to be a boy, I want to be a girl. And the school will now support the child. The child will even be going for medical examinations, even getting some treatment without the parents' knowledge. That is why even in America, some parents have left California they've gone to more conservative states. They've gone to more conservative states, and it's a problem when you go abroad. You leave Africa. Yes, we have our problems. We have a set of problems, but make sure that when you are traveling, you are relocating, you are not exchanging poverty for something worse. Because poverty, I'm telling you, is not the worst thing. There are some things that you get into that it's better to be poor. Or what do you guys think? Now, what is even happening is that as a parent, when you are there, you really don't have control over your child. Your child can just complain about you, and next thing that happens, your child is taken away from you, and they do whatever they want to do to that child. So we have to consider, and also parents, you send your children to those countries. When you send your children to those countries, a lot of things could happen. To maybe Europe or America, you see them, sometimes they start imbibing some habits that are un-African, that are not things you want as a family. Yes, so you should be careful. Quite a number of families that have relocated from Africa to Europe or America, there are people I know personally, there are families I know personally that have been scattered, that the family has been scattered. Things have happened, and it would not have happened if they were in Africa. I'm not saying in Africa you don't have things like divorce or whatever, but things could happen there. Let me just give a story, and the way I'll give the story, I will put it in a way that the people cannot be identified. There's a particular family I know that relocated. They relocated, they left Africa, and they went to Europe or America. I'm not going to specify. Today, as we speak, the man and the wife, they are no longer together. I think most likely they've divorced by now. Their child is now a woman that is married or living with a woman, and she has children. You can imagine their lives have been totally changed. That is it. It has been totally changed. And this child grew up in Nigeria, and the mom had to go first. The mom had to relocate first. The mom relocated first because she had the opportunity to relocate first before the husband joined her. And so she stayed there for so long, and the husband was here with the child. So I think what happened was that the child did not have the presence of her mother. So it made her now long for female companionship. And by the time she went to join her mother, maybe her mother was too busy because she's working, she's a woman that works. And before you knew, she was now forced to be in a relation, or coerced to be in a relationship with a woman. And today, as we speak, she's living with a woman, or she's married to a woman, and they have two children. So relocating, if you're an African, you value African tradition, you value we have our culture, you value our culture, sense of family, sense of, there's something about the African, we have this community spirit. We're not perfect, but there's this community spirit we have. In a way, we look out for one another. You see that people that travel to Europe, America, sometimes they go through extreme loneliness, and it's like the weather makes everything worse. The cold weather makes everything worse. So they go through extremely lonely moments. I know a particular guy that relocated to Germany, and he wanted to make himself unalive because he felt depressed, he felt disappointed, he felt that, sometimes when you cross over, you think that things are going to be perfect. But whatever challenges you live here, when you go, you will meet a new set of challenges. Sometimes it could be worse. So in life, you don't really run away from a situation. You deal with a situation and you overcome it. We are overcomers. If you're in Africa and you feel that things are not working, there are people that are in Africa that are doing so well financially. They are doing so well. So before you cross over to Europe, America, think about things carefully. First of all, realize that you as a person, you have a purpose. You have a purpose, and your location will not be able to hamper with that purpose. If you know what you're supposed to do, wherever you are, you'll be blessed. You don't need to be desperate to go to Europe and America. Now, this is a caveat. I'm not saying that people should not travel abroad. Sometimes your destiny is not in the country that you were born in. You are supposed to go to another country. But before you go, just be sure that you are going for the right reason. So till I see you in the next video where I talk about something that you might find equally intriguing, take care and stay cool.